We'll be seeing you. We'll be seeing you every Friday here at TFS. That foreign show. We'll be seeing you on that foreign show. We'll be seeing you. We'll be seeing you every Friday here at TFS. That foreign show. We'll be seeing you on that foreign show. We'll be seeing you. We'll be seeing you every Friday here at TFS. That foreign show. We'll be seeing you on that foreign show. We'll be seeing you. We'll be seeing you every Friday here at TFS. That foreign show. We'll be seeing you on that foreign show. We'll be seeing you. We'll be seeing you every Friday here at TFS. That foreign show. We'll be seeing you on that foreign show. We'll be seeing you. We'll be seeing you every Friday here at TFS. That foreign show. That foreign show. We'll be seeing you on that foreign show. We'll be seeing you. We'll be seeing you every Friday here at TFS. That foreign show. We'll be seeing you on that foreign show. We'll be seeing you. We'll be seeing you every Friday here at TFS. That foreign show. We'll be seeing you on that foreign show. We'll be seeing you. We'll be seeing you every Friday here at TFS. That foreign show. We'll be seeing you every Friday here at TFS. That foreign show. We'll be seeing you on that foreign show. We'll be seeing you. We'll be seeing you every Friday here at TFS. That foreign show. We'll be seeing you on that foreign show. We'll be seeing you. We'll be seeing you every Friday here at TFS. That foreign show. We'll be seeing you on that foreign show. We'll be seeing you. We'll be seeing you every Friday here at TFS. That foreign show. That foreign show. We'll be seeing you on that foreign show. We'll be seeing you. We'll be seeing you every Friday here at TFS.
ADR Networks presenta.
This is Celestine Angel.
And I'm Isaac Crouch.
And this is...
Foreign Show!
On that foreign show.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Foreign Show. My name is Isaac Rakesh,
I'm Celestine Angel.
and we are
here
activating your senses on ADR Networks.
So we'll have today a guest who lives in the US, but he's actually Mexican. And he's a journalist, so he covers, he works on, particularly on immigration issues, but I think he works mainly for American companies,
Yes, and we have a lot
American
of
publications.
questions for the guests.
Yeah, because he covered like a whole range of issues regarding immigration. So that would be really interesting for us as foreigners living overseas to know about, like, especially since it's related to Mexico.
Mhm.
And he also covered like the migration topics during COVID, like what happened then, and like a lot of interesting things that we can check with him actually.
Yes. Before we get into that, we're going to talk about our insider segment and what we're going to recommend for you guys today. It's something really interesting, especially for those people who love acting and who love language. All right, we have actually an English language acting class. All right, and it's open, and the classes are limited actually to 10 people, and it's held in this theatral space in Condesa. So if you live in the Condesa area and you like acting, give Ryan Mansneed. Her name,
I think it's Riemann. I don't know, but it's a new name. Interesting.
RyanMansneed@gmail.com.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so let me give you some background information
Right.
on her. She is an MFA holding professional actress with 20 years experience working in the US. So she's American. She will be coming on actually in a coming episode. And her credits include Broadway, off-Broadway, I don't know what that means.
Oh, cool.
We are not in this, so we don't know. Regional theater, television, film, and commercials. She also worked for several years with some of the biggest casting offices in New York City, assisting on hundreds of auditions. So I guess she will know what works, you know? So if you go with her and follow her lesson plan, like she will know, like, okay, this is going to pass for the castings and stuff like that, right? So that's interesting.
She can tell you if you're good or if you just think you're good. Right? Like, yes.
Yeah. And she's taught acting, voice, and speech workshops, as well as worked as a private coach for audition preparation. So she also can do that, like private coaching. Now she is a proud member of ANDA, that's what she said, and which is the Mexican Actors Union. So the class is a technique-based scene study, 2 hours once a week for 4 weeks. So that's the entire course. And yeah, so basically email her for all the scheduling and pricing information. And so, yeah, basically, this is not, she says this is not a class just for native English speakers. Intermediate level to native speakers will be okay. So basically, if you're interested in an English acting class, this is where to go.
Yes, if you're interested in learning English, so this would be a fun way to kind of do it as well, right?
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, like, it's fun, you know, acting classes are just fun. And I mean, I've been to one, like over here, and it was very enjoyable. Like, it really makes you break down like all the barriers that you have to express yourself. I find it very like spiritually connecting. So
gets you grounded, gets you connected to what you're feeling also, right? And being kind of present in the moment. Yes, acting is real fun. Acting is a whole thing that we kind of enjoy as well. So
okay, if our guest is on, like we are ready for him.
Yes.
But so meanwhile, like let's talk a bit more about today's topic. Okay, Rodrigo has like sent me like a whole bunch of articles that he did, which all look really interesting, and we will share them on the Facebook link.
That's our guest, Rodrigo Cervantes.
Yes.
He is a journalist based in the US, and he's Mexican, so we get a very interesting perspective when we get to talk to him.
Yeah. So basically, like, maybe we should just let you know what we will cover today. We are going to ask him what is his experience regarding migration issues, and also what his background about why he decided to move to the US and the challenges, of course, that he faced as a migrant. And then this is stuff that he wants to share. So I guess he definitely has some information that is going to be good for us. But he wants to talk about like the immigration processes, US and Mexico. So he definitely knows some things about these. So this episode is we're going to dig into these issues.
It sounds cool. I also want to find out what made him get interested in immigration law or law in general. So
yeah,
it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, he's never mentioned the word law per se, but I mean, obviously, since he's going to talk about like immigration stuff, he definitely would have some knowledge about that, right?
Yes. Or journalism, more like journalism. Like what
let me just see.
What gave him the interest to get into that,
Whether he's coming on yet.
Yes, and so like we said, he's a journalist based in the US. All right, and so we're gonna talk to him also about some. We're gonna ask him also about some of the cases possibly or things that he's he's come across.
He
in his
definitely
professional-
like has to cover all these case studies, right? And
Yeah.
actually, he was going to do like an article, so we actually sent his information to quite a few American friends here. He wanted to do like particularly an article on Americans living in Mexico, and yeah, that is now on hiatus, but he has a whole idea for it, and he wants to like propose it somewhere. Hold on a minute,
Interesting.
let me see. Yeah.
That's what we're going to be getting into today on today's episode. Our guest he's probably backstage and just waiting for him to come on. There he is.
Where'd you go?
Okay, you're going to see a black screen.
Yeah,
I don't know where
anything at the moment.
can you hear me?
But
Yes, we can
we
hear
can
you.
hear you, but we can't see you.
Not see me. That's
you switch
very
on?
weird. Well, I don't know. I can see you.
You
Okay.
can see us.
I
Is
can-
your camera on?
The camera's on, the mic is on, everything is on, but I can even see myself.
You can see yourself, but we can't see you. That's
I mean,
weird.
I cannot see myself
Yeah.
in the
In the stream.
It should be seen. I don't know. This is kind of. Do you want me to try to like reset this like really quick?
Yes, yeah, maybe if you reset, might
Maybe
be cool.
go out and come back in again and see if that works.
All right. Give me just 1 second. Let's see how it goes. Bye.
I was going to suggest if you want to do the interview like that.
That's distracting even for us, right? Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Rodrigo Cervantes.
Let me continue the things that we will cover. So then we are also going to talk about like identity stuff because he's Mexican and working in the field of migration and living in the US. So like I'm sure he has encountered different things that would make him reflect on, you know, where he belongs and like what he relates to, you know, that
Right.
kind of thing, right?
Yeah, very interesting.
Mhm.
And also just to get that perspective, as a journalist of what it must be like.
Yeah, exactly. And so like and like as always for our show, That Foreign Show, what we're most interested about is to figure out personal growth
Mm.
and like what this can benefit our life like reflectively and you know that kind of thing. So
Even in a personal way, right?
yeah, exactly, in the
Yeah.
personal way.
Yes.
So yeah, that's what we're going to cover. Let's wait for Rodrigo to come back.
Yes, and
And
I
if
mean-
you have any questions, feel free to submit it. And if we don't see them, we will let Rodrigo know and he will contact you.
yes, I got one question here that we're gonna get into, but I'll just give you guys a brief teaser about it. Basically, we're gonna ask him if he can recommend any books or documentaries or resources, to give us deeper insight into this Mexican American culture and history. Like it doesn't even have to be history. It can even be like for someone who wants to find out what exactly is going on, what with the political situation or with the immigration situation. If there's a documentary he's watched or a book, I want to know. I'm sure you guys might want to find out as well.
Yeah, for like, where to get more information about things, right?
About things, yeah.
He obviously has to do a lot of research as a
Yeah.
journalist. Yeah.
I mean, we have come across a lot of colleagues or people who move in and out of the US, because we're so close, right? And in this business also, we do this traveling in and out of the US. And people, the main concern or general feeling is of course, that it's a hassle. It's a hassle, firstly, to be dealing with immigration stuff. And that's one thing. And a recent popular trend or question is, of course, being a digital nomad and how that works, you know? How would a content creator who's working for himself, running his own business, how will he kind of move?
Yeah,
you know?
because honestly, it's generally interesting to know about immigration stuff for the US. It's very close, and like even for us, when we want to go back home, we usually go through the US. So it would be good to know anything that would be useful. Yeah.
Yes.
Even if it's not about living there. Mm-hmm. So still waiting for Rodrigo.
Let us know, Arthur, whenever he's ready, so we can get him on.
Yeah. I'm
the show.
Pretty sure Arthur is just going to put him through like immediately.
He's connecting.
Oh, okay.
All right, so guys, if you have any questions or you want to find out stuff, you know, just send me a message, send Celestine a message, or you can connect with us on our socials.
Okay, so we are going to take a break.
Yes.
Yes, after we want the break. We're going to take the break, and like when our guest is back, we will come back on. So just give us a few minutes. Thank you.
And we'll be right back.
We are going to a break and we'll be right back. Stay tuned.
On the foreign show.
¿Te perdiste alguno de nuestros programas en vivo? Recuerda que todos nuestros programas se suben en formato de podcast. Solo busca el nombre del programa en tu plataforma favorita de podcast y ¡listo! ADR Networks, activando tus sentidos. ¿Listo para llevar tu marca al siguiente nivel? La audiencia digital crece cada día y es hora de que tu marca sea parte de esta revolución. En ADR Networks alcanzarás a miles, incluso millones de oyentes en todo el mundo. Imagina la exposición que esto significa para tu marca. No solo serás escuchado, sino que también tendrás a tu audiencia compartiendo y conectándose en las redes sociales, multiplicando tu presencia en línea. Contáctanos en nuestras redes sociales y descubre cómo ADR Networks puede impulsar tu éxito. Haz que tu marca resuene en el mundo digital.
Hola, nosotros somos
Ramón Martínez
y César Alcántara y te invitamos todos los jueves en punto de las 4 de la tarde en tu programa De la Muerte a la Vida,
con temas espirituales que te fortalecerán en tu crecimiento a la madurez espiritual por ADR Networks y ADR Wellness.
activando tus sentidos. No faltes.
Te esperamos.
Estás escuchando ADR Networks.
Yo soy Monse Guarneros.
Yo soy Fer Gómez.
Y yo Lalo López. Y esto es Tu Voz, Unidos por Ti.
Historias de una fundación que ha llegado a tu hogar y que ha solucionado muchos problemas de ustedes.
Ayuda, dona, apoya y síguenos en nuestras redes sociales.
Además, sigue nuestras transmisiones a través de ADR Networks todos los jueves a partir de las 8 de la noche.
Activando tus sentidos.
Hey guys, we're back at TFS, and thank you for staying with us.
On the foreign show.
Hi, Rodrigo.
Hi. Hello.
You can see me now.
Yes, we can see you.
Wanted to ask you if you wanted to do the interview just now, but the way it was, but it's better like this. It's better like this.
Better.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the invite. We're happy to be with you guys.
Right, I'm Isaac. This is Celestine, and we have a bunch of questions to ask you. But let's just kick things off. What made you interested in journalism, or what made you get into this field?
I question that myself every day now. Bad idea. No, I'm kidding. I think I was always I've always liked to write, and at the same time to I have a creative side. I got very interested into producing multimedia, but also writing. At the same time, I think there's also a very political side of me that is concerned about the world and what happens around, our planet in general. So I guess the journalism was just a good way of putting those things together. That's how I got interested into this. Since I was a kid, I think those school papers. I remember that we used.
Right.
Photocopy. I mean, it was a paper, but it was more like photocopies, and you would just build it super primitive, right? Like cutouts and drawings.
Yeah.
Typewriter.
Yeah, we remember.
And give it away in school. So that was probably my first approach to it. But here we are now, freelancing, which is fun.
Great.
Nice.
So you have moved to the US for how many years now?
Well, the first time I moved to the US was in 2008, 2007. I lived in Atlanta for 8 years.
Oh.
That's where I worked with a Latino paper owned by the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. That was actually my first real close up to the immigration experience. Not only my personal experience, but also covering the Latino experience as immigrant communities here in the U.S. And then I went back to Mexico. I lived in Monterrey and in Mexico City for a few years. I was born and raised in Mexico City. And then I moved back to California, to the U.S., but now specifically in California. I'm in LA now. It's been 2 years. Sometimes it feels like 2 days. Sometimes it feels like 2 decades. You probably understand the feeling.
Yeah.
When you migrate, I guess. So yeah, here we are.
Okay, but when you moved to the US in 2008, you already started doing topics exactly on migration. So there's a long time. You have a lot of experience in this.
Yeah, I've been covering that. I've always been fascinated because I think it's always been in my nature, my interest in exploring the world and getting to know other communities. And I think that my dad had a big part of it because he always pushed me, if you study hard, if you get a fellowship, eventually, some countries or some colleges can eventually pay for your entire tuition and lifestyles, and you can explore different parts of the world, which I eventually did. I got a fellowship. I lived in Spain for a couple of years to get my master's. But then, I think also American culture is closed everywhere just because of the power that the United States has or has had for the past couple of centuries, I would say.
Yeah, it's it's almost like a culture of the world.
I'm sorry?
No, sorry, what were you saying?
No, I was saying that also I think that us Mexicans always feel this connection with the United States because we're so close geographically, right?
Yeah.
Wow. It is believed that every Mexican has at least one relative in the United States. Right?
It's very possible.
Very possible, right?
Yeah.
Very likely, to be honest. So yeah.
I mean, considering that thought, right, that nearly every Mexican should have a connection to the US, but it is very difficult I consider it difficult because for us Singaporeans to go to the US, we just need to do a paperwork online and that's it, we're through. But Mexicans have to go through a lot of vetting.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It is a very complicated. It's like, I honestly always have a laugh when I hear like some Americans are like, "Oh, it's not that we're not against immigrants. It's just that there is a right path for it." It's like, well, that path is a labyrinth.
Yeah,
It's complicated. It's long. It's very expensive too.
Yeah, you know.
And some of those parts of this immigration process, you also depend on the goodwill of people. Like I am very thankful, for instance, with the people in the U.S. that gave me the opportunity and believe in me and sponsored me to. Right? So you need that, but you also need the money of that sponsor or your own money to apply for visas, right? You need patience too, a lot of patience, because sometimes this process just takes too long. In the case of some countries, for instance, you even participate in a lottery. So you pay for this, you find your sponsor, you prepare to live in the U.S., and then your number is like in this like bingo thing, right?
Right.
But the truth is there is a lottery, and some people just don't get it, right? There are all these like different and different kinds of migrants as well. Like if you are a documented migrant and you follow this path, there's so many types of visas, right? Like there's like visas of companies that are transnational. There's a visa for people who hire you from other places. There is, or at least used to be, a North American Trade Agreement visa for Canadians and Mexican professionals, for instance. Then there is the temporary visa that you get if you get married with an American citizen, and so on and so forth. And then, you know, you have to wait, you have to apply, and then eventually you can turn into a permanent resident, which also takes time, patience, and money. And then eventually, after also time, money, and patience, you can become a citizen, right?
Right.
So I think it's just, you know, it is a very complex system. It is a system that there's been like political conversations in the United States for years, right? Like the last time that there was a so-called benefit for undocumented immigrants in the United States was with Ronald Reagan. That was in the early 80s, right? And that's when a lot of undocumented immigrants had the chance to fix their legal situation. But since then, there's been a lot of conversations, and there's a lot of people who are also trapped in the system. People that I've talked to professionally, for instance, but people that I've also met personally, that their struggle is real. You know, they come to this country to work, they come to this country to have a better life. But at the end of the day, it's a very complicated situation for them. And at the end of the day, even if they want to contribute to the country by having like a legal, it's very hard to find that path, right? So I think overall in the world, we're having like all these transformations on how we live around the world and how we're understanding it. Like right now, as you know, in Mexico City, there's this big buzz with the digital nomads.
Yes.
Interesting.
Tell us your views on that.
Yeah, that's one of the stuff you cover, right? In the articles.
Yeah, exactly. So, I think we're just becoming like a more global society. I mean, you guys are coming from Asia. 100 years ago, the migrations from Asia was completely different. You know, like as a matter of fact, one of my ancestors migrated from Japan, for instance.
Oh, so you're part Japanese.
So I'm like 1/8 Japanese, which according to my DNA studies happen to be also Korean. Like I have Korean and Japanese.
Oh,
very interesting.
Okay.
Plus the typical combos that you get in Mexico of European, indigenous, and you know.
Yeah, exactly. Like when we arrived in Mexico, we were like really shocked at how different everybody looks. Actually.
Yeah. The diversity is it's very interesting. Over the years that you mentioned, you said 2008 to now, you know, what have you seen like kind of change or improved? Has the situation become easier for people who, for example, want to migrate to the US?
I don't think so. There's been some progress in some aspects. For example, during the Obama administration, they passed the the Dream Act law, for instance, where many kids who were born mainly in Latin America, but from all parts of the world, but they were born somewhere else. They came to the United States with their parents with no papers. So they've been living legally in the United States, but they were raised as Americans, right? And so during the Obama administration, there was the creation of the Dream Act program, which is now allowing many of those people to work. For instance, they have a special work permit. There is they're not considered citizens yet or anything like that. And as a matter of fact, if they want to travel outside of the US, they need a special permit. So,
okay.
Wow. So,
well, you know, that's
post Obama, that's when all the complications happened, right? Like we met so many Mexican Americans that had to come back because because of that administration.
and a whole bunch of others we met also who can't go back to the US for other reasons, you know, like all immigration related. But yeah.
So this is definitely a really interesting topic.
Yeah. It's an interesting situation. It's one of those things that in American politics, it's very hard to have like conversations or to find like goodwill from politicians, because one of those topics, I think that immigration, abortion, and gun rights are probably the three key
more sensitive
that are very sensitive, and you don't see a solution. Same thing is happening now with homelessness. The homelessness crisis in the United States is unbelievable, particularly in big cities like Los Angeles, New York,
like LA, right? Yeah.
Which has a lot to do with the economic disparity that you're seeing in the United States nowadays, right? Like the middle class is struggling and shrinking. The wealthy are getting wealthier. And that's bringing also like a lot of tensions, and at the same time a lot of economic problems, which are also added to the health problems and the addictions problems, right? So it is a very complicated moment, but I would say it's a very complicated almost everywhere. I mean, if you look around the planet, I mean, it's just hard, right? Like very radicalized. Politics are becoming very radicalized.
One of the things you told me that you could talk about is contrasting the immigration processes in the US and Mexico. Yesterday, I was talking to a Swiss dude that was here, and then he was saying that like he lived in many places, and Mexico is one of the places that really is really good for foreigners because it's easy. The whole process is easy. So, what do you think about that?
I think so. As far as I've heard, and I would love also like to hear your experience or experience of people you've talked to, but I think in general that's the experience. I think the only part that becomes sometimes a little bit frustrating is the Mexican bureaucracy. That sometimes you have to, you know, like bring all these photocopies and stuff and documents, and if you don't bring them to the immigration office after standing in line for probably 2 hours, there's like some frustration there. But typically
the efficiency issues, right? Efficiency.
So it sounds that is the main issue. I think it's easier to get a permit eventually as an entrepreneur in Mexico, for instance, than in the United States. Or like a work permit while you get a job, for instance.
Right.
The refugee status is also easier in Mexico. Like, for instance, many of the Central American migrants that go through Mexico, they can actually get a residence permit in Mexico.
Okay.
So yeah. I mean,
like I don't know if you know anything about this, but like a Ukrainian friend said that Mexico is neutral, so I don't think they're receiving refugees for Ukrainians, but I'm not sure.
Well, the last thing I've heard about like refugees from Ukraine are actually there are or were, maybe not anymore, but there were some encampments in Tijuana.
Oh,
because
okay.
most of the Ukrainians that were fleeing from the war, actually their ultimate goal is to go to the United States, right? So they started arriving to Tijuana as a border city, where they were waiting for the American government to allow them to.
Oh, your audio got cut off there.
Yeah.
Oh.
Got cut off.
Yeah, sorry about that. No, but I was saying that
Probably.
Can you hear me now? Or not really?
A lot of very interesting topics that we're talking about here, you know, like movement, migration. Okay,
I think.
All right.
Can you hear us? Yeah, yes. I think we're back.
Okay. Please continue.
Oh, repeat what you just said. Yeah, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no problem. No, I was saying that when the war started, most of the Ukrainians that were looking for exile were that were arriving to Mexico. They were arriving to the border, the San Diego-Tijuana border, because their ultimate goal was to come to the United States, right? Mm-hmm. Some of them were like living in encampments in Tijuana. I would be very interested actually to know the Ukrainian experience in Mexico. I don't know how complicated it has been for Ukrainian refugees, because Mexico had like no posture, and the Mexican president has shown every now and then certain likes with Vladimir Putin. So but at the same time, we're neighbors of the United States, right? So I would say
he's what?
I think he's a little ambiguous on his political stance, but at the same time, I think that Mexico has always had a tradition of being very welcoming. Did I freeze again? Maybe.
That orange show.
Disconnect. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can. Can you hear me? Yeah. I don't know what happens. Like an ad that suddenly shows up.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So it's
okay.
Yeah.
Is your connection?
We have no ads, so I don't think it's a StreamYard thing. Like what ad is this?
I don't know. It's like weird. It's from the interface. Like sometimes, for instance, is your introduction, but then before I connected, I got like some other. So it was.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I don't know. Oh, that's weird. Okay. Well, but just now it was. I think they put an intermission because we both went off.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So what were you saying?
I think that Mexico has always had like a tradition of being welcoming with refugees, and sometimes under very controversial situations, like during the Cold War, for instance. Mexico was very welcoming of communist affiliates, for instance, from Chile. You know, like many Chileans who fled Chile after the fall of Salvador Allende's government.
Right.
Mexico. Same thing happened with many Spaniards during the Civil War in Spain, that they were affiliated to have like a republic, and they were basically against Franco, and Mexico allowed those migrations to arrive. Or like, you know, like the generation of my great grandfather, you know, like people coming from Japan, China, that were also like migrating, and Mexico was very welcoming. And many of them, most likely my great-grandfather, for instance, they ended up migrating to Mexico because it was a really bad idea to go to the United States during World War II, right?
Yeah. And like a lot of the Japanese immigrants here, they were fleeing the war.
Yeah.
From what we know.
Exactly.
So yeah, and I was going to suggest to you, like, if like, you know, you mentioned that like the Ukrainian experience was something that you wanted to know more about, and we are like in a coming episode, we are going to invite a Ukrainian guest who actually did a documentary about what happened to her. like she lost all her homes, and
she was right there in the place which got bombed.
Yeah,
the coastal town area. And so she has this kind of first-hand experience, and we want to talk to her about it. And we're just kind of waiting for the movie to be kind of released so that she can get into it. And it would be really cool to invite you to be a part.
Yeah, it will be very interesting if like we can all have a chat together. So if you're interested in that, we will let you know. Yeah.
Let me ask you this, Rodrigo. Is it true that, I mean, officially or unofficially, that the countries of Mexico, the United States of America, and Canada are actually kind of one entity, right? They have a kind of, I mean, you mentioned a few, treaties earlier. And have you heard of anything that has made things easier for business owners / digital creators to kind of, move in between these three countries?
There is a free trade agreement since the early 90s, actually, and it's one of the largest free trade agreements in the world just because of the volume of the impact that it has on the economies. Like it's like three big, powerful nations, economically speaking. The free trade agreement, which was called the North American Free Trade Agreement, or NAFTA, was revised during the Trump administration. It was very controversial in the beginning. Like many people opposing to Trump were like criticizing him because it seemed that there was like some discriminatory intention on his behalf, like particularly with Mexico. The negotiations apparently ended up well, and there was a positive modernization also of the agreement. So the reason why the economies of Canada, Mexico, and the United States are so connected, and I would say particularly Mexico and the United States, part of the reason is that trade agreement. Part of the reason also why the Mexican economy strengthened in the late 90s, result of the agreement, for example. At the same time, the agreement has also allowed the American economy to become steady and powerful and less dependent on other trade regular nations, right? So for the auto industry among the three countries is very, very strong. The production of automobiles is very strong in Mexico and the United States and Canada, and it's because of the entire chain that exists between the three nations.
Right. But I found it interesting that, like, for example, like Americans can drive into Canada easily. But yeah, I mean, it's so difficult for Mexicans to access America, US.
Like if you go to the San Diego-Tijuana border, which is, if not the busiest one of the busiest borders in the world, you'll see the same thing, like going from the United States to Mexico is actually pretty easy. Now, if you want to go back to the United States,
it's a different
story. It gets a little bit more complicated, right? But in Canada, like there are some parts that seriously, the border is almost symbolic in some ways, right? Like a checkpoint. There's a small town. I think it's in Maine or one of these like states that are bordering Canada and the United States. But they have a city that half of the city is Canadian, half of the city is American, which I find fascinating. They even have like a line like painted in the center. One side says US, the other side says Canada.
And it's just walk through kind of thing.
It's kind of interesting. Like apparently you cannot cross the street just like that, like you need, like there are like agents and you have to have permission.
Okay. Flash your passport like at the line or something. That's pretty cool.
It's super interesting.
So Rodrigo, we only have like 5 minutes left. So I would definitely like to talk about like your personal growth, like navigating this two countries, all the identity reflections you have. Yeah.
But before we get into that, we also have this one question that we want to get in also. And do you have any documentary or book recommendations to for people who want to find out more about these issues that we've been talking about? Yeah.
Oof.
You can read his articles.
I can send you a list. How about that? And then you can share it on your.
That sounds fabulous.
That would be great. Yeah.
Yes, right now, as soon as you ask,
you can't think of it.
Like in the Matrix, like all these like books, like. And with movies and documentaries. But yeah, going to the other question about identity. Well, I think that's one of the most fascinating things when you become a migrant, right? I think your identity absolutely changes. Even though we live in a globalized world, or a more globalized world, that I think that allows us to understand better other cultures, and like you see like global phenomena that probably 20 years ago would be like impossible, like a Spanish-speaking singer becoming a global icon, which is happening now, or how they fashion from a specific region that would be perceived as, ooh, this is so horrible, like 20 years ago. Now it's becoming a trend, like global, like you see all these trends. So in a way, the world facilitates you more, like to understand that. At the same time, I think when you become a migrant, your identity changes. Like I love my country, for instance, and I know that my roots are in my country. But at the same time, there are like many things that I love about the United States. And sometimes when I go back to Mexico, it's because I'm getting a little bit tired of being here. But then there's a point that I also get a little bit tired of being in Mexico. And then eventually get tired.
Are these two like things related to efficiency, functionalities?
Some of them are. I mean, some of them are food. Some of them are.
Oh yeah, of course.
Culture,
The Mexican food in the U.S. is very different, right? Like we have eaten at the food trucks. Yeah. But it's so weird.
Yeah.
I mean, just next door. Like it shouldn't be that difficult. To get the proper tortillas or something.
Yeah, I mean technically.
Yeah. Like white corn, for instance. Like white corn in the US mainly for the kettle. But in Mexico, we eat it, right? Like we are actually not very fond of yellow corn, as you probably noticed already. So those little details, like make like a difference sometimes. But the same thing with, I think there's always like, it's very interesting because I think that once you experience like different countries, you can understand that it's like a yin yang. Like what's good, it's also typically what's bad of the place.
Yeah.
For example, I love the diversity of the United States. I think it's a very unique country. Like the diversity that you find in the United States, it's very hard that you're going to find it, or impossible that you're going to find it somewhere else in the world, Yet at the same time, it has been like their struggle with diversity, what makes it so complicated sometimes, like this kind of struggle to try to understand and coexist with people from many different backgrounds.
Yeah.
And in Mexico, there are things like that as well, like there is, for instance, this like very family-oriented culture that it's great and beautiful, like just to keep like your nucleus, but at the same time, many families can become very absorbing, right? So there's always like this yin yang there, there's always and then I think that when you move, you eventually start like dealing with that process, right? Like probably you have like that same situation that you go to Mexico and then you love like many things that probably Mexico is offering you. But at the same time, every now and then, I'm sure that you're like, why is this so complicated? Why is this like, because of this and this and that,
Yeah, it's part of the process, like you travel and then you have to adapt. You can't like have like expect things,
Yeah. So I think, like in previous generations, in the generations of our parents and before that, there was an expectation that you had to choose your flavor. right? Like, you want to be Mexican or you want to be something else, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
You want to be non-Korean or you want to be American, and you know?
Yeah.
I think that nowadays it's easier just to reconcile with the fact that you can be a lot of things and it's fine, you know?
Yeah.
You can be as Mexican.
Or you can just be you, the soul, right? Not this all these labels that are put upon us.
Yeah, because that's
Anyway.
also what makes your experience unique and rich and relevant. And when you can help someone by the learning experience that you've been building, you know, which is one of the things that I really enjoy, for instance, like mentoring, and just helping someone, like, you know, someone that it was probably me when I was like 15, and kind of trying to understand what's going on in the world, and there's someone who tells you, like, well, you know what, actually the world is yours and you can just go there, and it's not going to be easy.
Yeah.
It's probably not free, but you can do it, you know. And that's great, you know, like when we start like doing these conversations, for instance, and sharing our life experiences, but also like sharing our knowledge, and then there's something that we can always contribute to the places where we go to, I think.
So thank you very much.
That's a great thought to end.
It's a very beautiful note to end this podcast, and we are definitely going to invite you again. I hope that you can make it.
Join us again we would love to have you back on again to talk some more. Yes.
I'll pay my internet next time, guys.
All right.
Thank you very much again. My name is Celestine Angel.
I'm Isaac Rakesh.
And we have Rodrigo Cervantes with us. And we are here on ADR Networks, activating your senses. Peace out.
Thank you to all who joined us here on That Foreign Show. It's been awesome. I'm Celestine Angel.